All right, we're back, and we are live on a Monday, kicking off another week of Rock Talk with you here on Trunk Nation. So this is the news of the day, and every rock artist is responding to it on social media, as you will see if you take a look. The hero to rock fans around the world today is one of the most unlikely people you would ever imagine, and that is none other than Dolly Parton. Dolly Parton today posted the following statement on her official social media, and here it is. She writes, and I quote, "Dolly here. Even though I am extremely flattered and grateful to be nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I don't feel that I've earned that right. I really do not want votes to be split because of me, so I must respectfully bow out. I do hope that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame will understand and be willing to consider me again if I'm ever worthy. This has, however, inspired me to put out a hopefully great rock and roll album at some point in the future, which I have always wanted to do. My husband is a total rock and roll freak and has always encouraged me to do one. I wish all of the nominees good luck and thank you again for the compliment. Rock on, Dolly." That is so incredibly awesome on so many levels, I don't even know where to begin. On this day, ladies and gentlemen, fellow rock fans, we have to pay all tribute and respect to the most unlikely of rock defenders, Dolly Parton. Because Dolly Parton has enough sense to know something that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame itself does not know. That she's not a rock act. This is so incredibly awesome. I don't even know where to begin. It's awesome on so many levels because it just like, okay, Dolly Parton obviously gives no fucks, nor should she, about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because she knows she's not a rock artist. She probably is saying, what am I doing on this thing? So there's that. By removing herself from the nomination, and by the way, I don't even know how that works because I don't think you can remove yourself. Like the Sex Pistols wanted to, and they couldn't. Like they can't stop somebody from going through this process. She couldn't stop them. I mean, she can say up front, I'm not showing up, I'm not participating, but I've never heard of somebody having their nomination removed. By the way, she made this announcement about a week too late because the ballots already hit all the voters and half of them may have already voted for her. So her intention in doing this is to try to help actual bands on the ballot that actually are rock, that makes sense going into something called the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, give them a better chance than to take votes potentially away from them. And as much as her heart is in the right place, and as much as I applaud her beyond belief for doing this, she did it about a week too late. Because what she's trying to prevent from happening has already been set into motion. We did our ballot last week. I've already sent it in. Now, of course, we didn't vote for Dolly Parton. We knew better. We actually vote for rock acts for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And all the other voters got their ballot the same time I did. So half of them probably are already sent back. And of those half of them may have already voted for Dolly Parton. It's too late. The reality is she, as great as this is, she did this, and maybe she didn't know the timing. Maybe she didn't know the ballots had gone out already. But she missed the clip on this. She really the intent of what she was trying to do and the impact of it, she missed by about a week and a half. If this post would have come out 2 weeks ago, then maybe it would have changed people who were voting already who planned to vote for her. But what she's doing, it makes the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame look so ridiculous for continuing to nominate artists who are not rock. Now, it's not a diss on any of these artists. Dolly Parton is a legend as a songwriter and country music artist. But even she knows and probably feels pretty uncomfortable and weird trying to figure out why she is on a ballot to go into something called the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, when there's a million great rock acts that continue to be snubbed. And in this post, if she's saying her husband is a big rock fan, her husband, and I don't know who the man is, but probably is just like, hey, Dolly, do you know Foreigner's not in? You know Boston's not in? You know Meatloaf's not in? You know Styx isn't in? You know, all these legendary bands that sold millions and millions of records, never been nominated. Did you know any of that, Dolly? And Dolly Parton was like, what, really? And they nominated me to something called the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? What? Oh, I could not possibly take votes away from actual rock acts for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So she checked out. Our hero is Dolly Parton. Dolly Parton just did something far more rock and roll than the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has done in years. She gave it the middle finger in the nicest possible way to actually help to open the door for an actual rock band to maybe get in. Now, the problem with that is, hold on a second. Hold on. Where's my ballot? If Dolly looked now, and an artist like Dolly Parton, who's got tons of dough and an icon in her respective her field of music, she might not. What you find is most of these artists don't even know how the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame works. They don't understand the fan vote. They don't understand what happens if they get in. They don't understand anything about it, and they probably don't even know who else is nominated, especially someone like Dolly, who doesn't need this at all, like who is more than set in her legacy. So she may not realize that she took herself out, but Dionne Warwick is still in for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So as much as you have a case right now where even some of the nominees are scratching their heads saying, wait a minute, isn't this supposed to be about rock and roll? I'm not rock. Dolly Parton saying, I'm not a rock and roll artist. Maybe one day I'd like to make a rock record. I haven't yet. Why am I in this thing? Why am I on the ballot? Why am I taking a spot and potential votes away from real rock bands who have been snubbed for decades? Great question, Dolly. Great question. Why has Motley Crue never been on a ballot for something called the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but Dolly Parton is a nominee? And we had a call last week, and I forget the woman who called in, and she's like, what did she call it? The Random Music Hall of Fame. She's like, it should have been named the Random Music Hall of Fame. I've said all along, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has made it known that they are going to be all kinds of music, and whatever they want to play, it's their sandbox. That's their thing, despite the name. But you can't get around the name continuing to be problematic when you've decided you are going to open it up to every genre of music. Every genre of music is not rock and roll. Just like I would not be sitting here and screaming for Aerosmith to go into the Jazz Music Hall of Fame, or for Metallica to go in the Country Music Hall of Fame. As rock fans, we can't even have our own Hall of Fame dedicated to the music that's on the name of the friggin' place. God forbid we get that. Again, I know they've been doing this forever. I've said this is how they're doing it. It's their institution. I get all that. But when a major artist like this does this, it not only illuminates how ridiculous these artists even being nominated for the Hall of Fame is, it also reinforces that they really should think about changing the name of this thing, especially with each year them wanting to get more broad and more diverse with the artists and genres they're putting in. But which, by the way, the guy running it in his mission statement said that's going to get even broader going forward. So it is time to change the name, and it is time when you have nominees saying, I don't belong in this thing. She's basically saying, I may make a rock record one day, and if I do, and Dolly Parton's like 80 years old, I think. How old is Dolly Parton, Joel? Look this up for me, please. Not that it matters, but I'm just wondering how much time we have before we get a rock record.
She's 76.
76! So at 77, 78 years old, Dolly Parton wants to go in and make her version of the Black Album? Bring it on. And then at least she'll have one record in her catalog that's worthy of considering inclusion in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I mean, and look, the thought process behind it is also so incredibly cool. Hey, I want to take myself out of this so maybe Judas Priest can get in. I mean, Judas Priest, 50 years playing heavy rock, snubbed already twice on the ballot. There's Dolly saying, you know what, I'm good. I got theme parks. I wrote the Whitney Houston hit and a billion other huge songs. I'm 76. I'm happy. Let Judas Priest go. Let MC5 go. Let the New York Dolls go. Let Pat Benatar go. There's a woman who actually is a rocker. Take my votes out of it. Please don't vote for me. I'm rescinding. I'm pulling out. That's what she did to actually try to get rock bands in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Like I said to you when I did my ballot, let's actually do something crazy and vote for rock bands that are on the ballot for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Dolly realizes she doesn't belong there. She knows more than the people who put her on the friggin' ballot. Well, what am I doing here? It's probably like, I didn't see Led Zeppelin show up at the Country Music Hall of Fame. Dolly Parton, our rock hero. Heroine. I mean, Dolly Parton, all respect. If you look on social media, every rock person is taking her post and just writing the same thing. Thank you, respect, whatever. How is it that the nominee who's pulling out has more of a clue on what the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame should be than the institution itself? What an amazing message this sends. I love it for the message it sends. I love it for the stones that it took to do this. And I love it for why Dolly probably did it, because maybe it directs some votes to an actual rock act. Now, again, sorry, Dolly, but there's still a ton of other non-rock acts, as always, on the ballot that those votes could go to. But at least you, Dolly Parton, had the common sense to know you are not a rock artist. You are a tremendous, accomplished, legendary artist in your own world of music. But you know, Dolly Parton acknowledged and knew and scratched her head and said, what am I doing in this thing? Let's let some rock artists go into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. What a friggin' concept. All respect to Dolly Parton today. All respect. I'm going to have a little sip of water. Going to gather myself. Joel, play some Dolly Parton going into the break. Play some. What do we got from Dolly Parton? The only time in history we're playing Dolly Parton on this show. Give me something going into the break. I don't care. There you go. What is this, Jolene?
Yep.
See, even I knew that.
Jolene.
Play it in a break. Oh, hail Dolly, our rock hero. We'll be right back.